Oh, what is up? What's up? How's it going, everyone? Hey, so thanks for clicking Gut Instincts podcast. I hope you dig this episode. This is with a good friend of mine, Jazz and Vegidemic is another episode. If you want to follow him, it's Vegidemic if you want to follow him at Instagram, it's Vegidemic. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, my friends, it is now CBD Guru with two U's, not in the middle at the end. CBD Guru, Guru. Just more rebranding. That's just, change is one of the best things that we can do with our lives. So you gotta embrace it, and you gotta keep going. And if you got a good Instagram handle, you should definitely keep it. Don't mess up. So this episode, we get into cannabis. We sort of let you guys know a little bit about our original backstory with cannabis and what's going on, and nothing too deep. The story is the cannabis story is long. So we'll have plenty of other episodes pertaining this subject. Yes, my friends. And if anyone knows how to turn off this Daily Mail notification that I keep getting on my MacBook, please let me know in the comments below, or just message me on the website. I went into all the settings. It says it's off. It says the notifications are off. I feel very defeated at this point because all it does is just spread that fake news propaganda. And if you're into that, of course, we got a couple of the back episodes that you guys can listen to. That would be pretty cool, and I think you'll have time for the support. And don't mind my folded laundry and all that jazz. Still just trying to figure out the best way to do this video thing. Till then, we got some cool over-the-air interviews, right? So to that, I already lit this up a little. I'll be honest, I did. I can't wait for you, okay? This isn't how it works, my friends. Look at this thing. This right here is because the microphone doesn't fit inside this stand. It's a whole thing. Not that you need to know. So let's light up this. Oh, by the way, I got upgraded to cones for any of you cannabis users out there. Yeah, the upgrade to cones is where it's at, my friends. So that's a whole other level up aspect in life. So so this is about autoimmune disease and lots about cannabis and a little bit of our backstory. So I hope y'all dig the show. Don't forget, you can download, or I guess you can watch these on YouTube, the video ones. You can't download those. Too big of a file. So check them out on YouTube. It will be there. And then, of course, the website, gutinstinctspodcast.com. And if you like this stuff, make sure you let your friends know. And you let me know. And then if you have any other subjects on which you want to go over, please feel free to leave a comment. Or if it doesn't matter. Just, whatever's on your mind. Go for it. With that being said, love y'all mucho again, and thanks for listening and Toke. Cheers. Yeah, I like it. I love the stuff you guys are doing over there on the podcast. It's awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. Right back at you. You've been in it for a while too. A lot of people don't know you got a lot of episodes under your belt.
It's like I had to slow down for a little bit there because just it's not like when you get in the groove, you probably know, like you get in the groove and it keeps going and you're rocking and rolling, but then there comes a time where you end up like kind of slowing down, or you need to slow down. That was my thing. I was like, let me just slow down a little bit, collect my thoughts, let the
Right.
world move a little bit. And
I'm
then
sure it's easy to get into that pattern too when you're doing it by yourself. Like for me, it's like I have a co-host, so sometimes when I'm just like flaring and on fire, ready to go, it's like he's not necessarily available at that time, so it kind of slows it down naturally. So
yeah.
I think that's a good thing though, because it's like when we do get to tap in, it's really organic and we get to just flow as opposed to like we're forcing it, you know?
Yeah, that's probably the best part about having another person, especially if it's on the same show. You guys can feed off each other. That's like
Mhm.
kind of like the best. I don't know. That's why it's so fun, like having doing talks with you and like with other people. It's like it's not always as fun when you're just kind of by yourself. And then
Right. And you get lost in your own head and you feel like you're ranting sometimes, you know? The
I
problem
love
that I
those
have
rants, man.
is oh, for sure. I think that the issue with that not really an issue or a problem, but like the what we're kind of navigating through is the time limits. So sometimes we'll just hit a topic and then I'll end the session. It's like 120 something minutes in. And I'm like, all right, that's obviously not an episode. That's way too long, you know. But there's like little bits of gold sprinkled throughout the entire session that I kind of have to like piece together, and
Yeah, yeah,
they're still like 50 minutes long. Like the one I just went live is 55 minutes, and it's like to me, I'm like, I wish I can be a little shorter, a little more digestible. But like once you start deleting stuff, you get rid of like like you have a tag like, oh no, I want that part. I like that part. This part is really good. And
yeah. I mean, I I bet people like the longer format. It's not even. I don't even think it's too bad being, kind of long. I think people like that. People like the whole conversation, and
gotcha.
I think people appreciate that. Obviously, not everyone. It's like you
Right.
can't always get everyone's attention, but with the Joe Rogans and all that stuff,
Yeah,
dude.
they go
That
hours.
they go three. He goes 3 hours sometimes. 1 hour. It's
I mean, even I've seen ones that are like 20, 30 minutes, and I'm like, man, like we're just getting cooking at 20, 30 minutes, you know? It's
yeah,
like
yeah. I know.
to end the episode there would be like, ah, man, it's so limiting.
I know. I know. I feel you, man. Yeah, like this last one I did was not too bad. It was vaccines. The ingredients in vaccines.
Gotcha.
That can get pretty weird, as you probably know. You probably
For
looked at
sure. Yeah,
like
absolutely. It gets more than a little weird.
you're like, oh, that's strange. How is that? How is that beneficial? It's like you don't have to be a like, you don't even have to be a scientist. You don't even have to be right. You don't have. I
Yeah,
don't
it
know.
doesn't take much besides common sense to read some of these words and be like, I don't know about that one, you know?
Yeah, some of them there are arguments for. We won't get into it, but it's interesting. It's interesting stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but yeah, man, that's awesome. I'm glad. I'm excited to check out the YouTube, the channel when it starts to just get out there. People love it, when you start getting out there, and then a lot of people they just they like to hear from us.
Right,
Hear from
absolutely.
us.
And it gives us a nice outlet to create as well, especially right now we have a bit of time and we're all just looking for our purpose like we always are. So I'm just like trying to dial into what I love as opposed to just like, doing some other things to just make ends meet or whatever, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I think this. it's powerful, man. The internet, how much we have at our fingertips
Right.
with the information and just being able to connect. Just being able to do this is like
Right.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, the next thing you know, it's on Apple Podcasts, and it's like, man, that was so easy, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, it's really impressive.
Yeah.
I'm really stoked about it.
Cool, man. Yeah, I'm glad. So yeah, I was texting you. We were talking about cannabis, having an episode or a show where we talk about the herb, the
Yeah,
good
count
herb.
me in. It's an in-depth conversation, I think. There's like so many pockets of it,
Yeah,
and there's
yeah.
like,
We should just intro it. We should just kind of toss around how we started, probably. I guess. You know.
gotcha. Would
Uh,
you would you like to lead or?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, well, it's funny because you and we went to school with each other a long time ago, as before cannabis days. So I'll just get that out there. um,
Well, no, I used cannabis back then.
oh, all right. Well, before Mike, at least me. Uh, I don't think I don't think tried it until high school. I think. But
Gotcha.
then again, things get pretty vague. The memory when it gets back there. I
Right,
don't know
right,
why,
right.
but I do remember like actually consciously being aware and smoking it and like being like affected by it, like pretty
Gotcha.
pretty pretty stoned back when I was in high school. And it was funny because somebody kind of, I mean, I've seen it and everything, uh, but it wasn't until a friend of mine was like, hey, you should try it for your Crohn's or try it to make you feel better. It was like I probably heard about it before, but I didn't really think anything of it. And it was kind of like a light went off, and it's like, oh, maybe, you know, uh,
Mhm.
and and that was it. Like when I first felt the benefit, it was like being able to eat and just get some pain relief. Probably that was like the other, you know, uh, that was probably the two major things. And it was like ever since that, it was like the curiosity,
Mhm.
striked. And it's funny 'cause that's probably why they're so afraid of letting the herb be free, because it's like right after that I remember it was like this gradual understanding and exploration of like natural healing and
Right.
body, gut, mind things.
It
And
puts you in with the plant spirit medicine and that sort of thing.
I'm assuming that's exactly what it is. Like I'm pretty firm believer about that, because I mean when I worked with ayahuasca, it
Mhm.
wasn't until I had that relationship, right, until that happened, and that opened up a whole other uh, realm of possibilities and probabilities of my life. And
Gotcha.
so, yeah, I mean, it makes sense that we have a relationship with plants, plant medicines,
Mhm.
herbs, right, things like that. And like it isn't until we connect to it that it starts to like light up this little package of DNA or something, right,
Right.
inside of us. All this ancient knowledge.
Yeah, so it's safe to say that you found use for the plant medicinally, but it also planted seeds as far as like spiritual as well, and that kind of continued to lead you on this long-term use of it. Would that be kind of in the ballpark?
Yeah, pretty much, man. Yeah, a nice long-term use, more understanding, more willing to try, right, other
Right.
natural things. I mean, again, it's like it's not going to be like like feel like everyone's experience is their own.
For sure.
So like I'm sure there are people who have nice like m- herbal moms or hippie moms or something, right, that grow up and they showed them they can use oregano and to rub a
Right.
cut and stuff. Like, I didn't really, that kind of wasn't what I was exposed to.
Gotcha.
Uh, so It's just funny when I think back of it. It's like you think about how you learn this stuff, and eventually you hear one day like, "Oh, this medicine is made or comes from this herb or plant," or obviously like they make synthetic ones, but I remember starting to hear that, and you're like, "Oh wow, wait, what?" And then you're like, "Oh, it's the money." You start learning about money and patents and how you
Right,
can't
right.
patent nature, and then it's like, ah, things start to kind of
It all starts to
unfold.
make sense, yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's another thing, even the cannabis sometimes will lead you to more critical thinking. It's like, "Oh,
oh
wait,
yeah,
well, if this has got some trickery in there, then there's gotta be other things as well," and you start to, like, flip that switch in your mind, you know?
yeah. There's no doubt about that, man. There's
And
definitely no doubt about that.
do you use, obviously, I know the answer, but for the listeners, you use the herb as far as other uses besides smoking, correct? Like, you use it more as like a whole plant medicine, or
Yeah, man, absolutely. Yep. I use the oil, so I'll infuse it into the coconut oil. That's
Mhm.
make my own capsules with that. You can also make your own hand cream, right, or body cream, whatever. Coconut oil based cream. Super simple. You just look online for ingredients, list, and just swap out regular coconut oil with the cannabis coconut oil.
for sure.
Um, what else, dude? There's the RSO. That's I don't use a lot, but occasionally, if I can make it, it's tough to make, but really strong, which is the extract, right? The
Mhm.
um, Another favorite is the tincture, right? The alcohol tincture. You could throw the whole plant. I mean, not the twigs, usually just like the nugs. Oh, Kaya Bear. She's like, I agree completely. Um,
Oh. Sorry, go ahead.
Bella's knocked out right now. Just like, she was so angry I was eating earlier. It was probably the funniest thing. She gets so angry when I eat and I don't give her any. It's like the face. But yeah, I was saying like I'll put the nugs, the herb inside of the mason jar, put the vodka, right, organic vodka, whatever
Mhm.
you want. I usually just do whatever I can get. Organic vodka, mix that up, strain it. Boom, you can use that. Use that. Put that in like my teas and all that good stuff.
Wow.
Um, you can dilute it to water, sugar water or something. But yeah, what else? It's literally an all-purpose plant, right? I mean,
Right, yeah, I would even say even outside of the flower itself, that the
yeah,
plant can be used in many, many, many ways. So at this point, I'm actually not smoking the herb.
yeah.
It's almost been 4 years since I've burned it,
Wow.
but that doesn't mean that I'm not an ally of the plant. And any people always think like, "Oh, well, Jazz stopped smoking, therefore, like, he's, like, anti-cannabis now." And
Yeah,
it's
like
like,
you somehow abandoned it. You're
right.
like,
When actually I think more so than ever, I'm a believer in it. I mean, I like to use it all those ways that Ryan just mentioned are all fantastic, but for me personally, I like to just take, the vegetative state, a lot of the fan leaves, a lot of the sugar leaves, pretty much anything that comes off outside of the flower itself, and I'll even use the flower, but obviously that's just, harder to come by, um, and I will juice the leaves. These leaves.
love the juice from the leaves.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Yeah.
hundreds of cannabinoids, all sorts of compounds, all sorts of fat soluble phytochemicals and phytonutrients in these leaves. You know, for lack of vocabulary, the cannabis is a superfood, in my opinion. We rant and rave about the curly kales at Whole Foods, but nobody ever talks about, raw cannabis benefits, whether you want to eat them, blend them, juice them, however you want to get them into your body. I mean, you even have The healthy omega 3 to 6 ratio of, on average, about 1 to 4. These things are incredible, and the more I ingest them, the better I feel, in my opinion. Especially, you and I both struggling with, inflammatory type conditions, to where the more I can get this into my body with like the turmeric and the other things that I use for inflammation, I think there are great benefits from that. I even have my friend on who has, RA, and her fingers are really like bunched up from it, from the joint pain, and I got her juicing the cannabis and adding that into a protocol with the curcumin of turmeric and black pepper. You add that cannabis in there, and now you have this anti-inflammatory powerhouse that we're just kind of sleeping on, because this stigma of cannabis is like as if it's not a medicine.
Right. I know. It's kind of blows my mind that there's even still a stigma, you know?
Right.
It kind of blows my mind. But you're right. It's like it's a nutrient powerhouse, nutrient dense powerhouse. Um, when I was at the juice company, we were juicing it. They made the hemp milk. And that stuff
Mhm.
is like, I mean, it's not the end all. You got to have a good diet, right? You got to have a
Of
food
course. Just
full
like
of,
anything else, it's
yeah,
cohesive. And
yeah. So, yeah, man. I like the seeds. They're awesome too. The juice is definitely like one of my favorites. It's kind of reminds me of like wheatgrass in a way. How
mhm,
it's like if you do it just straight,
it's extremely
uh,
pungent.
yeah, it's like it's really strong,
Mhm.
and which is cool, but uh I like to mix it. I like to mix it with when I can get it, I'll mix it with like romaine and celery, romaine and celery
Mhm.
and green apple.
Right. Yeah.
And what's my other one? Little bit of lime. I'm telling everyone my secret No, I'm just kidding. It's not a secret recipe. It's like it's my all-time. You can make so many green drinks, right? But
Absolutely.
I don't have to tell you this, but I'm just saying it. But how easy is it to mess it up, right? To make it like,
Oh, very. It
unless
happens
of
swiftly.
course, yeah, unless it's like you love the taste of the greens, right? Which happens after a while. You start to
Mhm.
really love like certain tastes.
Right.
Um, or just enjoy it, right? Like romaine, I think I could drink straight. I think it's delicious. You said you can drink celery straight, or you do, right?
Yeah, I did it for
Yeah,
a
I can't
while.
drink that. Yeah, but it's so good for you. I actually got a big bag of greens right now, and I need to juice it. It's-
Yeah, I actually
and
had a
eat
cannabis
sap.
juice before my workout and my yoga today. I had a cannabis juice, and the recipe that I'm going with right now is, so I'm using the dark lacinato kale, the dinosaur kale,
Oh yeah, yeah,
darkest kale I can find. I had some fresh raw cannabis from a nice, clean, organic craft grower. That's also another key. Just like anything else, you don't want, traces of heavy nitrates or synthetic fertilizers when you're concentrating it into a juice. So you try to source as clean as possible. So
yeah.
you got
That's bad.
you got the lacinato kale, you got the raw cannabis. You have a couple stalks of celery because you need something hard to go through the juicer as well. Instead of a cucumber, I use celery because of the texture difference. And then I'll use ginger and turmeric, or one or the other, whatever I can source at the time. Today I just happen to have both. And
Nice.
then for flavor, I added just one orange and some pineapple. And I use the pineapple because it's also anti-inflammatory, has elements like bromolamine, which breaks down proteins, quercetin, which is good for the stomach. You
Yeah.
know,
Yum.
guys like you and I who have problems in that department.
Yeah, I tell you, pineapple is one of my favorite all time. fruits. It's just a bummer when I eat it raw, like when you eat it raw and it's
It
ripe enough, it can just starts to burn.
makes you
Your
bleed, yeah.
yeah, your mouth is crazy. But I've noticed, I'll be honest, the juice I don't really get that as much. Like I can
Yeah.
or put a good amount in, and have no problem with it.
Mhm.
It seems I got it's my smoothie in there right now. It's ready for me to drink. It's got pineapple in there.
Nice.
Yeah, this week I have pineapple and banana and blueberries. I've been in the bloobs
Yeah,
for the
same.
immune system,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So yeah, I got some blueberries sprouting in the backyard. It's looking good. How's your garden?
To be honest, I'm pretty behind with, like,
Yeah,
everything going on. I haven't had the means of transportation to really get around.
yeah. It's all right. You got plenty of time, honestly. You can
Yeah,
plant whenever,
I'm gonna yeah, it'll happen. I'm trusting the process on that one.
Yeah, you got to just let it happen.
Mhm.
But yeah, I actually got right here half my half toked on joint
Right.
um that I was gonna light up of my medicine, man. Yeah, it was like I took what did I take? I think I took 3 months off. That's
Really?
before 4 months off of toking just to like um just give my everything a break.
Mhm.
And it's nice. It's a nice break, but it's nice to have it back. It
Mhm.
just makes you appreciate it more. You know,
Right.
appreciate
Absolutely.
the medicine more, and especially like my brother-in-law put it, is nothing like what do you say? Like knowing yourself when you're sober or something like that. It's like
Yeah,
a
for
whole
sure.
new. It's like a whole new ordeal. Not that I'm saying it's bad or anything, token every day, because that's pretty much what a lot of users will do, especially if you need it for like some real. I mean, obviously some more some people need it more than others in the sense that like some are really affected, like hurt wise. Some people can't even, like you were saying, the is if there's inflammation in the fingers or anything like that, right? They'll have like the shaking thing going on, and uh just so much, tension relief, people for back. Some people
Mhm.
can't move, Uh, me being one of them, I have some back issues, so it's like it's unreal. After my issues are like going to the bathroom, so after I'm done going to the bathroom, like to have a pain reliever and like a muscle
Right.
relaxer and a healer,
Absolutely.
an anti-inflammatory agent, like right after, is like the doctors ain't got shit on it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just to
Right.
be kind of blatant about it.
And I think that's an important kinda line to create is, like, you're using it in a way that's conducive to yourself, but there's also a pattern of people where it gets a little bit almost abusive, where they're just using it just to use it,
Sure.
like, and it just becomes a bit of an I don't wanna say an unhealthy habit, but it does cause some difficulties trying to create clarity within, your the combustion, just inhaling smoke all the time is really not ideal for human health, in my opinion. Like when you're doing it in a large amounts of like
Yeah.
all day, every day, using the herb as a component to help is like, hey, I just got done using the bathroom, or I'm having some tough pains, and utilizing it in that fashion is pure magic. And I think that's you can't deny that.
Yeah.
But I mean, even emotionally, sometimes we definitely get into a space of escapism, and I've definitely realized that in these past couple of years, where like I'm bringing up a lot of emotions and having to look within a lot of the time, instead of just like going off into the woods and like smoking a joint and kind of just like letting it go. Now it's like I really have to like sit with it and address it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that you don't do the same things. I'm just saying that some people can fall into a pattern of just like smoke, 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 and then
Yeah, it's a tension reliever. It's like it's tough. It's a tough cookie to swallow, or if that I just made that term up, makes no sense, but like in a sense that like you can address things, and regardless, you're gonna move on, right?
Right.
Regardless, it's gonna be the next day. And we both know like a lot of it has to do with like your reaction to the daily stresses, if you will, right? The
Right.
daily challenges. That's kind of where the key lies, to be able to manipulate that, like,
Mhm.
that now moment into like the best possible. And so it's tough. It's like on one hand, it is better, and almost is for sure probably for the psyche to digest it and go through it and like be able to use it, and or forget it a lot of the times, right? If you're The whole point is you want to have the thoughts, digest them,
Mhm.
kind of swallow them, and then they all go in you, and then they go out, and then you're kind of like, all right, now we move forward in life. um Whereas on the other hand, it's like you smoke, or you take it in other ways, and you just kind of like, sometimes you get too much in the now moment, sometimes you get too much not in the now
For
moment, but
sure.
regardless, it's like, I don't know, I don't think it's quite swiping it under the rug, but it can be, right?
Right, right.
It can be used in that sense, like, and it's so easy for us to. How many people drink every day or every weekend?
Exactly.
And it's kind of a survival till they get to the day or the 2 days that they can drink. Some people who don't drink, it's like, other things, other vices, right? But it's like you get to that point, and then you have to do that vice, and then you kind of like reset, and then you go upon the monotonous weekly tasks.
Mhm.
That's why I don't really like that 9 to 5 thing. I don't really, because that's what you can end up doing it. And I mean, if you're looking to make a lot of money off of like cigarettes and alcohol and stuff, that's great, right? I got you locked in all week, and you're waiting for that weekend. So you work all week just to pay for what I got.
Right, right. I
But
think
yeah, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Of course, like anything, it can be abused, though, right?
for sure.
It's like anything.
Yeah, I think
So
it even comes down to just, like, the respect of the plant. Like, for you, you obviously have this deep
yeah,
understanding and deep respect for the plant, so, like, you're not really allowing it to become this abusive thing, and you're also sensitive to energy and you think critically, so when you do use it in a stressful situation, you're obviously super mindful of it, and you're probably using it as a tool to even help you address these things, as
yeah,
opposed to, like, the opposite side of the spectrum where it's just like a means to an end, just fire it down and jump on the escapism train.
yeah. I'll light to that right there. Um. So all right. So you're on your break, and how long were you smoking before that?
Long time. So I grew up before I was even born. Herb has been a part of my family. So my mom smoked for quite a long time. She actually had moderate use while I was in her stomach when she was pregnant. People probably say that's probably why I turned into this person, but
Ha. I
she,
mean, I don't believe there's anything wrong with it. I think that's
I
completely
don't
fine.
either.
If
Yeah.
the mom, yeah, it's yeah,
So, I mean, doctors will say you can have 2 cups of wine or whatever it is, whatever the
yeah,
moderation amount is, but yeah, she wasn't like, burning outrageous, but, she has colitis, she's
yeah,
IBS, she's also pregnant,
yeah.
she's also going through stress, and, my
So it
pops
was there
my
for her.
pops would
That
let her,
yeah,
yeah, absolutely, they would have a couple little tokes to calm her down, and when I was born, obviously, everyone is using the herb around me, my mom, my sisters, everybody that I was around at the time, they all used herb, and I never really got into this. I thought that was kind of normal or like normal-ish. I didn't really understand the stigma until later on in life when I started realizing that like people were going to jail and like it was this weird thing of like you don't tell anybody because this is like before all the laws changed. So you don't tell anybody what happens in the house. It's real hush hush hush.
Yeah.
Spray the room after you're finished,
Right.
and
Because it was like early 2000s, right, where things started to shift out. I think it was like 97 was California was the first
right.
when they
And we're on the East Coast, so we're way behind,
yeah, I think yeah. I think Rhode Island was like 2007.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So then when I started smoking cannabis for the first time, I was probably 12 or 13. It's not really like when I picked it up heavy, but I did it, I did it enough for sure. And the neighborhood kids would we would want to like skip school and go to my house because like we could just go and like puff tough or whatever. And
Yeah.
that's when I started recognizing the stigma that this is like something wrong, that there's like this isn't the normality, like nobody everybody's household isn't full of herb users.
Yeah.
And then the more I explored that path, I just got really into it, kind of like I guess you can say the rebel element of it, of like
Yeah.
me just wanting to be me. I wanted to skateboard and I wanted to write poems and write music and smoke cannabis and just do kind of just express myself, kind of like leading me into the spirituality aspect of it. And then right around, I would say 16 or 17 is when I really tapped into using it medicinally, because it's actually really interesting that me and RJ's past are so connected, because not only do we go to school together, but we also kind of struggle with a similar battle. So Rye has Crohn's and I have Burchett's, and Burchett's is often diagnosed as Crohn's before they really get into it. So for a while they thought that I had Crohn's. So whenever I hear RJ tell his story, I'm always like super resonated with it because it just makes so much sense to me.
Yeah.
And around that time, when I was just having so much pain abdominally, throwing up, can't stop, the diarrhea, and then when the diarrhea flips into constipation, and it would kind of just bounce between like not going to the bathroom for 12 days versus I can't stop going to the bathroom for 12 days. That's when I started using the
Torture.
cannabis. Yeah, it's brutal. And that's when I started using the cannabis in that kind of aspect of like, wow, I could, in the early mornings when that pain was so sharp and I'm laying on my pillow trying to put pressure on my stomach, and I could just take like 6, 7, 8 hits of cannabis, and it's just like that weight comes off you.
Yeah. Is it straight so it do you kind of feel like it the pain it sort of makes the pain subside, or do you feel like it's more of a like an internal like you know it's there and it's there but it no longer has that grip on you to where it's like you're okay with living with whatever is going on uh
I
you
think
know
it's a bit of both, maybe. I mean, it
yeah
definitely has that
yeah
psychoactivity where
right
it might just relieve stress enough to where you're not so much obsessing over this pain you're
yeah
having. But I also think that there's pain killing elements for sure, because I mean,
yeah
as you know, with some of this pain, as far as like gastrointestinal pain, that stuff gets sharp. Some of that stuff moves through you like glass. And like, not to get too weird, but like, I've had a lot of bloody stools and that stuff doesn't feel great. So
no
like to have an
that's a
element,
regular for me
yeah, I mean, I just recently had a flare up, and that stuff moving through you like glass is brutal. And sometimes when you finish up that kind of bathroom session and you go and you have some cannabis, it's like, yeah, you're still obviously raw and you're hurting. The next time you use the bathroom, it's not going to be pleasant, but you're definitely kind of putting a film over that pain and just kind of relieving yourself a little bit in that moment. And that's super powerful, as opposed to taking fistfuls of pills or whatever, drinking the milk of magnesium or the enemas or whatever it is that they want you to do instead.
yeah absolutely man stuff it really can get pretty bad um That's like a main reason why I do it. Because when things get that bad, it's like it's the only thing that will work. Um,
Mhm.
only thing, and obviously when you dive into it, the endocannabinoid system and all,
Absolutely.
it all kind of works together, in a beautiful synergistic way that gives us these pain reliefs and
Right.
and everything. Um, so you are not combusting the plant, but you're using oils. Is that right? Uh,
Right now, mostly just ingesting it raw. I feel like I'm getting a really nice boost from that, as well as like the nutritional aspect of it. As you said, as
yeah,
like a more synergistic way for me to approach it. I have in the past, like, made teas or whatever. I have had non-THC capsules just to kind of see how those made me feel.
yeah,
So I'm not opposed to any of those other things, but just the combusting aspect. And this is me not even committing. I'm not saying I'll never,
right,
you know, smoke herb again. Just right
yeah,
now, I'm in this space where I'm really enjoying, no stimulants, no outside elements. Just I'm just being me, and even going back to me as a kid wanting to be expressive and almost rebellion. It's almost a similar feeling of like just let me express this part of my life if I want to just be. Whether they call people said like, oh well, Jazz is like a straight edge dude now, and I'm like, I don't know if I really identify with that because like the straight edge, most straight edge
calls
guys,
you straight edge.
right? And it's like super like dogmatic, and I'm not really into dogma of any kind, and I just want to find a way that I can achieve, the highest level of health that I've had since being put on into this physical vessel, and I could be right about this, I could be wrong, and that's just a part of
Right.
the journey.
Yeah, I mean that's how you figure it out is you use your gut instinct.
Yeah, absolutely.
um yeah, it's like I mean there's nothing like feeling good though. I mean no matter what, and it I don't know if you've ever read anything from Eckhart Tolle. I read a few things some of his stuff is pretty interesting, but one of the things that he talks about is something called the pain body, and it's like if you get too attached to it, there's this
Gotcha.
idea that
Mhm.
like we identify only
Mhm.
into our pain body, and the problem with that is like it's double edged because first for a while there, once I kind of got that in my mind, I was like, okay, I want to detach from that narrative completely, and it sort of shook things up so much where it's like, how do you detach from your actual story in your past
Right.
while living a new, more successful, healthier, right, present and future. uh that's I feel like that's one of the hardest things
Big time.
to tackle, and still I get that challenge a lot even now. And it's like, so that's why I always pray I feel better, and I'm like I'm doing what I can. I've switched all, diets so many times. I'm so tired at this point. Where
Mhm.
like I'm at this point where I'm just gonna, if it feels right and I'm craving it and I want it, I'm just gonna have it. I'm gonna go for it. Uh, and that's it. And then to deal with the consequences, and then see what happens. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
See what happens. Because there was a while there that I would look at every ingredients, and if one ingredient I wasn't digging, I wouldn't eat it. I just put it back,
Gotcha.
and it's detrimental when you're, you know, when you can barely hang on to the weight in the first place.
Mhm.
That's the whole thing. It's like you go through this battle, but then it's also not just affecting me as a person, but it's also affecting like somebody with who has had Crohn's for 20 years, which is like I'm just tired of it at this point.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
you know
It's hard to detach. It's like I have Crohn's, but I am not Crohn's sort of thing, and you kind of have to like separate them,
Yep.
and that's so much easier said than done. Because I've been there. I mean, I've done. We actually did an episode on our podcast about dogmatic diets and obsessing over the healing and the extreme detox sort of thing. And I go into detail about like the real wacky places that I've been kind of mentally of just being so desperate to break free of the pain of this vessel that I would just do the wackiest stuff. Pretty much everything but the urine therapy I did. The
Uh,
urine therapy was like I drew the
I
line
thought
there.
about that too.
I mean, I thought about it numerous times, but I was like, "Nah, I'm not doing that one." But I've done all the
I'm willing
ones.
to do the fecal matter transplant at this point.
Yeah,
I'm ready to get someone's poop.
I've tapped into that too. That's pretty interesting stuff for sure.
Getting someone's poop, man.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. That the gut flora is just a vast topic to touch on that we know so little. Like we know about it, but we know so little about it. That
Yeah.
it's pretty fascinating.
I'm gonna have to do my gut map test again. I did it last time.
Yeah, I
Uh,
remember.
yeah, and that was before I got my appendix taken out and like
Mhm,
I changed my food and everything. So it'll be interesting to see what's going on. Things aren't the worst at this moment, but they're also not the best. It's kind of like one of those things. Um, I just take it day by day, and I'm taking a bunch of, elderberry, CoQ10,
mhm.
PQQ, all the Qs. I am on a little bit of prednisone right now, still, just a little smidge,
Gotcha.
5 milligrams, coming off of it, and I think it's really affecting me, which kind of blows. But I'm just praying that I'm gonna ease up on like I was making like organic bread,
Mhm.
and eating a lot of like gluten-free pastas. So I'm gonna just ease up on that stuff,
Gotcha.
uh, and then hopefully it kind of, I don't know, helps out. I don't know. I can't. It doesn't matter what I do, honestly. It's always changing. That's kind of why it makes me like go crazy, because I feel like no matter what foods I change, I may see some relief, but it always just comes back to the same weird
Right.
symptom, whatever you want to call them. Um, it's funny. I just did um a podcast episode the other day, and it's about the vagus nerve. Do you know about that? That big long, I guess it's a long nerve that goes from like, I don't even know, the top of your, I think down your spinal cord.
From
Um,
from from lips to hip, right?
I think so, yeah. And it's like there's this there's this issue where it can be pinched or something,
Mhm.
at a certain area, and that can affect like all sorts of things. Your immune system, it can like part of me thinks like, maybe there's going to be a time in my life where I finally get the right doctors that are going to be like, hey, let's check out this nerve, or let's
Right.
check out this, and they're going to be like, oh, this is why your immune system's getting all jacked up. um, and then it would open up a theory that I have, which is like, especially Crohn's, it's not related to one thing. It's like Crohn's is the autoimmune disorder, which is your immune
Mhm.
system's attacking its whole entire digestive system. So it's like that could be, how can there be one source, right? The digestive system is so complex. I think it's a blanket term almost of like the worst, one of the worst autoimmune disorders, like
Right.
one of many, right? Like, and they're all related. I don't know how though. There's something going on, and I know diet helps, but I keep getting pushed in corners. It's
Mhm.
tough. It's a tough thing, you know.
Yeah, I think diet can help a lot easier with like, the arthritis type of autoimmune activity.
Right.
When it comes down to like those GI
It's
issues. It's
crazy.
really complex and it takes a
Yeah.
lot of effort, and like the briquettes is very similar, except not only does it do the like the colon and the GI, it also will do like oral oral ulcers as well. So you'll get ulcers in the colon, you'll get ulcers in your mouth, you'll get ulcers like on the inner thigh, kind of genital type of areas, and which is
Yep.
very strange. And then you get like I've always been really subconscious of my back because it's like got all these like weird scarring all over it from the condition. And like you said, I try not to identify with the condition, but it's really hard when it's like I've been looking at my back for 10 years and it's looked exactly the same, or like you can't talk because you got 3 mouth ulcers, or you got blood in your poop, and it's like,
Right.
or you just feel like junk no matter what. And it's really hard to just be like, yeah, you know what, I am not this, and screw you, pain body.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it seems so challenging to the point where it's like I've sort of just succumbed to it, and like it's just one of those things. Like you are it. It is you.
Hmm.
Um, I try to be zen about it, but there's of course the idea that you could not be here tomorrow. Not to be pessimistic, but like there's all sorts of aspects that tell you like, all right, well, you just got to do what you can every day, and only thing I keep doing is praying that it gets better. Again, I don't, I thought I thought I was on this big discovery with the diet thing and all this stuff and everything. Kind of after they opened me up and took my appendix out, it all kind of came crashing down, and then I didn't know what to do. I still don't know what to do.
Right.
So, I'm kind of living it like I said earlier. Is like if I want to eat it, I want to enjoy it. I'm just gonna go ahead and go for it. I mean, obviously, I'm buying like things that I think like to get or things I like more. Grass-fed meat and stuff like that. Local veggies that haven't been sprayed. Like, dude, I got to the market 2 weeks ago and I got the greens and I couldn't believe it. I was like buying them all up. Like, I missed this. Like two romaine and one red butter thing, and
Yeah.
I was like, just take them all. That's why I got a bunch of greens. I gotta make that green juice, and I like to make like a half gallon at a time, man.
Yeah, that's how you gotta do it.
Half gallon at a time. I'll drink like 30 ounces a day, probably
Hmm.
around. Sometimes I'll do it in the smoothie. My goal is to juice that every week, but I don't always get to. It's kind of a bummer.
I mean, it's what you do most of the time, not all the time. As long as you create a healthy habit of
Yeah,
getting it in when you can, that's
yeah.
perfectly fine.
I love it
I
though.
even
It's
did
so
a I even
satisfying.
did a I did an experiment too, because you knew that I was juicing every day for quite some time. I actually took a
Yeah.
break from it and I stopped juicing for because honestly, this is gonna sound really weird, but I was actually starting to get scared that if I stopped juicing, that I wasn't gonna be able to have bowel movements. So I was like, I need to know. You know me. I'm like, I'm tricky, so I gotta know. I'm like, I need to know if I stop juicing for a month, 2 months, 3 months, that if I'm still gonna, is it a facade? Is this health that I'm feeling a facade, or am I really making steps here? So I had to
Yeah.
stop for a while. No celery juice, no any juice of any kind, and thank God I still had some movements. I was kind of scared for a minute there, so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
actually just brought it back in. I've been juicing again for a couple weeks. Or what I've been doing is I'll take some cannabis flower that a friend will give to me, and I'll put it in the. I got this new vacuum blender, which is like the future.
Ooh.
What it does is you lock it in, and it sucks all the air out of the carafe, and then it blends it. So then when you pull the carafe out, you have to let the seal out and let the air out so you can get everything inside. So it saves 5 to 7 times amount of like polyphenols, antioxidants, and things of that nature.
Oh,
Almost no oxygen gets in through the blades because it's vac sealed.
Yeah.
So I'll put cannabis flowers in there with like some RO water and like maybe a chunk of fruit of some kind and whatever I got, maybe some turmeric, maybe some lemon
Yeah.
juice, whatever. And I'll vacuum blend it and then I'll squeeze that through the nut milk bag and I'll kind of have like a cannabis flower juice
That sounds
without
delightful.
smoking it. Yeah, it's great. I mean, getting some of those mature cannabinoids that aren't in the veg leaves because I believe it's all magic, you know. So I get it as much as I can. It's not an everyday thing because I can't source it as easily. But you know,
Right.
when a friend comes over, he'll bless me, and that's pretty sweet.
Yeah. Man, that'd be nice to have a little, a little organic place to that, grows them and pulls all those beautiful leaves up and, gets them out. That's huge. That you can, yeah, you literally can't get that anywhere unless you have a friend or
Right,
you grow on your own, which obviously that's what I advocate for. If you can grow your own, you don't spray anything at all. Don't spray anything out. I tell you, it doesn't matter if it's Dr. Bronner's, nothing, like nothing, not
right.
even cinnamon water. If you, yeah, like at the bare minimum, at least this is for me. I mean, I'm just saying that's my recommendation because especially if you're gonna juice the leaves, what like yeah, I guess you can spray them beforehand and that's washed or whatever. But I don't know. It's just you can grow it without spraying, so might
For
as well,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
It's like and yeah, that's the best way to go. So it's clean leaves, um, fresh. I love it. Yeah.
When you grow it yourself too, you become a producer, not just a consumer, and that's something that's super important to me in many facets of life. It was just how can I do this myself? How do I not have to rely on an entity that I had to put blind faith into, that they're not doing some trickery, you know, like even down to just like water. Like
Yeah.
a lot of folks will buy distilled water in the bottle when it's like, how do I know they really distilled it? How do I know they didn't reintroduce anything? You know, distilled water is slightly acidic, so if it's in plastic, it's leaching plasticides, and then I'm throwing away the bottle and adding to the environment. So it's like all these different components. It's like when I can just get an RO machine and a glass gallon jug and simplify it that way. Same thing goes for cannabis. Instead of like relying on the dispensary who you put a blind faith into to not treat